and I'm excited to say we have two awesome runners on today, both Katie and Emily, who are known on TikTok, and correct me as if I'm wrong, Sister Runners.
Yes, that's right.
Awesome, awesome. And I think it's a really unique page. I think a lot of people, when they create their own pages, they do it by themselves. But to see two sisters who both have a similar passion and to be creating together, I thought was a really cool concept. So I figured I'd hit the two of you up and see if you wanted to join the podcast. But enough about me. Well, I figure we could do some introductions and learn a little bit about both of you and your story with running and see how the conversation goes here today. So I don't know who wants to start, but we can go around the room here.
Okay. Well, I'm Emily. This is Katie. We really started running about like 3 years ago.
About 3 years.
Katie just got a job close to where I was living. So she was like, "Hey, can I just live with you for a little bit until I find a place?" So she moved in with my husband and I. And we at first just wanted like a form of exercise. We didn't really like go to the gym, but we knew we liked to be outside. So we started running. But then we just fell in love with running, and not just as exercise, but just getting better each time and trying to go further each time.
Yeah, it was exciting the first time I ran 6 miles and just wanted to go further. And then I think we just started running together, and it's more enjoyable to run with someone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. I completely understand that. I mean, I'm someone who runs by myself a lot, but I notice it's both easier and you see a lot more success when you are running with someone. You definitely are hitting more like PRs, faster times, and it just makes the run go by quicker. So it must be really nice that the two of you have each other to run. And I may have missed this, but you said you both started running like 2 years ago, or
We really started getting into it about 3 years ago.
okay.
So we didn't run like in school prior. It was just a recent hobby that we picked up on and just stuck to it.
Awesome. And what motivated you to get into running? Because I think for everyone there's different ways or reasons or someone who gets them into running. I'd be really curious what motivated each of you to take that first step.
well, for me, I guess I also like to be outside and spend my time outside, and that's another form of an activity to do outside. And like she said earlier, we don't really like going to the gym. So that was a start of an exercise, and then it just became where we like to challenge ourselves, and that was a good challenge.
Love that. Awesome. Well, and I'd be curious too, because I think a lot of people when they first start running, it's a challenge, right? I mean, to get out there and to do something that is unfamiliar for your body is both physically uncomfortable, but also mentally can be challenging in the sense that you're just like, oh my God, this is boring, or oh my God, this is hard, this is different, whatever it might be. Did either of you struggle with that at the beginning? Did
Oh,
you
yes.
for help? Like, I'd be curious,
Yes.
beginner runners, like how that went 3 years ago when you first started.
It's so funny because starting out, we were like, "Oh, we can't do a 5K." And then we would do a 5K. And then we're like, "Oh, we can't do a half marathon."
Yeah.
And then we do a half marathon. I was like, "Oh, no, we cannot do a marathon. That just sounds impossible." And then we would do a marathon. But so it's really crazy looking back because you think in your head, like, "Oh, this is impossible. How do people do this? There's just no way. How can you be running for over an hour, you know?" But I just think it's, having that consistency and that motivation and that goal. Because I know when we signed up for like our first half marathon, we were like, okay, we don't even know if we can do this. We might DNF, there's no way. But just having that like that motivation and that mindset of something that you really want to work towards, having that goal, I think it's awesome. And then afterwards you get that like that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I did this. We trained and we did this. So then after that first race, you're just like, I love this feeling. I got to keep having this feeling and keep challenging myself.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I think the sense of fulfillment that people get from races, that accomplishment that comes after each one, whether it's completing a distance that you've never done before or getting a personal record, it's such an awesome feeling that I'm glad both of you have. Because some people never give themselves the opportunity. They might run, but not actually ever sign up for a race, or run one race. Maybe it's not a great experience and then quit from there. But it
Mhm.
seems like both of you really got that feeling very quickly. And not only to just complete a race and get that good feeling, but always taking it another step from the 5K to the half marathon to the marathon, which in 3 years, I mean, that is honestly very impressive. I mean, I speak to a lot of runners who like might be running for 10 years until they first sign up for their first marathon. Even myself, I mean, yeah, I started running when I was 12 years old. It was a little different. I probably wasn't going to run a marathon when I was 15. I don't even know if you're allowed to, but still, I mean, that's a really, really great story. So for you two, is it just more about accomplishing the longer distance that drives you?
Yeah.
Or are you both looking to accomplish certain times when you run these races? I'd be curious.
Definitely distance.
Yeah, more distance.
Yeah, we want to eventually run faster. But right now we want to do ultras as well. So that is our goal at the moment.
We're looking at maybe doing a 50 km around next October. So maybe fingers crossed, but that is our goal. So we do want to work on our speed a little bit, but our ultimate goal is to go longer.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, marathon's the longest distance I've ever done. So I'll be watching the journey. And if the two of you end up doing ultras, I'm probably going to ask for some advice because that's something I'm definitely interested in doing.
We're definitely learning along the way. We've learned a lot just from the marathon. Like there's so many variables, like what shoes, what clothes, you know, like, am I doing this right? Do I need to do this right? I mean, we found this one plan that my boss actually shared with me. But then other than that, we're just like, all right, let's just trial and error. What's going to work for us?
Yeah.
It's definitely a learning process.
You learn so much during training for running. I mean, and it's nice though, you have that time to like really like think about it while you're running too and evaluate it after. So I love that. I mean, what would you say are some good pieces of advice for new runners who want to train for maybe just even a 5K, or some who might be like, wow, like it would be great to like get a marathon off my bucket list one day, for two runners who so quickly were able to see so much great accomplishment from the sport. But for some of these new runners, like what piece of advice would you say would be helpful based on how much you've learned so quickly?
Definitely probably start slow. Like don't go out there and expect your first run to be like, I'm going to go all the way to 6 miles. And, you know, you just started running. I think because I had that learning curve too, starting out, I think we overdid it. And I got some shin splints, and shin splints take a lot longer than healed than just going slower to begin with. So I was like, oh man. So that's something that like, it's a slow process. At first you feel like it's going to take you forever to get to that end goal. But I mean, just trust the process and go slow to begin with. Every run does not have to be like, you know, super fast and super hard. You need to have those easy runs and those slower days and just trust the process. If your body is feeling tired, or, you know, if your body starts having a pain, listen to your body, because that's something that I also feel like I was not doing. And that's what led to my shin splints, because I was always like, I have to do my best. I have to get to this mile. I have to, you know, I have to do it. But just knowing it's just a slow process.
Yeah.
And if you're just consistent with it and listen to your body, then you'll get there.
Yeah. I'd say be determined and keep a good support system, because that definitely helps, and be excited about every mile that you do. I also learned when starting marathon training, we started strength training as well. And that really helped, which I didn't know that at the beginning, obviously. And so yeah, as a new beginner, I would also start strength training while running.
I'd be curious regarding the shin splints, because that is so common with runners. I used to actually coach track in the middle school and high school level for a bit. And a lot of our newer runners like see that all the time. And then people that I deal with and help with running now, I mean, like they tell me about shin splints. I'm lucky that I've never dealt with it personally. So any advice I give people are just based on like my research and what I've heard from other people. So I love having these conversations to really understand ways in which you either recovered from shin splints or what you do now as well to proactively prevent them, as someone who dealt with that.
Yes, I a lot of ice. I like to, especially after long runs, I'll ice my shins. And then another thing, I don't know if this has been helping with the shin splints, but I have toe spacers that kind of help align your toes and to help kind of widen, you know, that base.
Yeah.
So I feel like that has, along with that, ice,
stretches.
Yes, I also do a lot of like dorsiflexion with my feet. And I also do a lot of like calf raises. a lot of like step ups. So there's a lot of various like shin strengthening activities that you can do at home, which I've incorporated that into every single one of my workouts now. I make sure I don't miss that because I'm like, this is not happening again.
Yeah.
So with the exercises, ice, toe spacers, and I think too, that's just another part of listening to your body. Like if I feel my shins are starting to kind of, since I know that pain, I kind of am familiar with like, ooh, you know, this is kind of getting that shin splint feeling, then I'll just stop. And also we started walking. So right after our run. So what we would do is we would just, you know, yep, we're done. We're going to hop in the car and we're going to go home because who likes to stretch? Stretching can be time consuming, but it is very important. It is necessary. Yeah. And just walking, like, even if it's like 10 minutes right after your run, I feel like that has really, really helped with the recovery process.
I love that. And then, you know, on the other tip that was shared here, strength training. I mean, I know you mentioned you didn't like going to the gym for quite some time, but now that you're running, you've noticed the importance of strength training. And obviously it sounds like both of you are doing a lot more strength training. I'd be curious, would you say that it was easier to get into the strength training component just because you were motivated by the running portion of it?
Probably. I would say though, it's still, since we're not like, oh yes, strength training, it's so hard to find, like, for us, it was hard to find, what are we going to do? You know, like, here's a gym, here's a bunch of equipment. What are we going to do?
Yeah. And since we started making our TikToks, I feel like that helped me out a lot as well too. Yes. Because I would look up exercises to be able to like show people on TikTok what to do. And then since then, like, I'm learning myself. So now I know these exercises, you know, and what works best for me. So I can share that as well.
I love that. And what type of exercises have you found the most success, I guess, preventing injuries or just, you know, helping you improve your running ability with? Is it more like stretching?
Yeah, with me, yeah, I've had knee issues. So I do a lot of single leg exercises.
Well, yeah, single leg squats, even some core. This isn't our strong suit, the strength training. So if you want me to give you the exact name of what the exercise is called,
check out their TikTok, and
yes,
through the next couple months and years, we'll see more and more. I think that's the cool part about it, right? I mean, when both you are going through this journey and also you're broadcasting it through a social media platform, you have the opportunity to, one, learn something, but two, feel kind of like a social responsibility to let people know about what you learned. And then you admit like where you're strong at and where you're still learning, but eventually something that might be like a weakness or you're a beginner at, you become an expert at because of what you're doing. So I guess that's a good opportunity to pivot to your page. And I'd be really curious, what motivated both of you to actually take that first step and create your TikTok?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know if I'm talking here, but
I just feel like we found that other pages were motivating to us. Like we follow a lot of like the Run Talk and a lot of other runners on social media pages. So I felt like they have really helped us figuring out, especially getting started, like what worked for them, what didn't work for them, what they're doing. And I feel like we just really wanted to kind of do the same thing. We wanted to help new runners.
Be part of the community.
Yeah. So we just, you know, one day we're like, okay, we're going on for a run. Let's just try videoing it. So I typically video, and Katie's the editor because I don't know all that stuff. But so it just worked out because it's not very time consuming on either of us when, you know, we kind of split the roles. So yeah, we just thought, fun. Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. Yeah. And I feel like the miles go, especially when we do like the videos where it's like mile 1, mile 2. I feel like that's helps us motivate us to get to that next mile too, because it's like, okay, we already filmed the first mile. We got to film the second mile. It kind of like breaks up that time to where, you know, we have something to look forward to. Like, what are we going to do on this next shoot? So it's kind of exciting, and it makes running fun, I feel like.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, I love that. It's so nice that the two of you have each other for that, because I create all my content and I just wish I could have someone like whenever I want to take the video, and then also at the editing too. It's sometimes I'm just like, I don't really want to do this editing, but I like posting, I like coming out with the content, but like it's probably like it's definitely a luxury that the two of you have each other. And I think the page has a lot of potential because of that, you know, if you two stick with it, because having a team is like so key, I feel like, to some of this. Can't do everything by yourself, right? And so I think that's really cool. And I also really like how you're talking about it makes the run more exciting. And you probably also feel like you have a little bit more accountability in a sense. Like
Yes.
you're voicing your training for a certain race and you're following some sort of plan. Well, you're not gonna not follow the plan because you feel like not only do you owe that to yourself, but you owe it to each other and you also owe it to the community, which can be really motivating. Do you feel that way as well?
Definitely, because I had surgery during my training. And so that was one of the factors where I was like, oh no, like everybody that on TikTok and like all these people I've told, I was going to do this race. And, but luckily we were still able to do it and finish. And she was, continued our videos and stuff. So that would be one of the examples where we just kind of held through it.
Now, on the topic of races, I want to go back to that a little bit because I know you two recently, and maybe it was a couple months ago or more recently than that. Was it your first marathon that you did, or?
It was our first. We did it like the first weekend of October. So just a few weeks ago.
Gotcha. And was it the one in Maine, or did I get that
in Maine? Yes.
Nice. How was that experience? Because I love learning about all the different marathons. Like I have a goal personally, like one day to complete 50 marathons.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dates, we'll see. But I haven't done the one in Maine, so I'd love to hear about them. I'm sure some viewers would be interested in hearing about that experience as well.
It was beautiful.
Very pretty.
I would say maybe it's not like one of the biggest races out there. It's kind of like a medium size. Like I would say there's still probably like 500
a little more. There was a good amount.
Yeah, but I mean, it went right along like the coast of Maine and like some of their houses along the water. It was really beautiful. And that time too, it was perfect because the leaves just changed. In Georgia, the leaves change, but they're not as colorful as up north. Yes. So that was something new to us. And hill wise, we were kind of worried because there was some reviews saying like, oh, the hills are going to be terrible, but they weren't bad at all.
They're like rolling hills. They made it actually kind of easier. Well, I thought so.
The only thing with this race is you definitely have to make sure you bring your nutrition because they only had like liquids on the aid station. So that is something to be aware of when you do sign up for it. But I thought it was really fun and it was beautiful.
That's awesome. Was it a pretty big turnout? Like, is there like thousands of people who run, or how many?
Oh no, it's like a medium-sized run, probably around like a
little over 500.
Yeah. So it's not one of the largest ones. Like it wouldn't be like a Boston or anything like that. But I feel like it was a good size. I feel like we've done some races. We've done some races like we've done some of the rock and roll ones, and those have so many people. You feel like you're like playing Frogger almost. You're weaving in and out of people. But I feel like this was great because it gave you that break in between people. While you still had like a crowds cheering you on and stuff, you weren't worried about like running into the person in front of you. Yeah. Which I thought was nice.
I definitely understand that. I am next week I'm running the New York City Marathon.
Amazing.
I'm definitely going to be playing a lot of Frogger. There's 50,000 people who run that race, but I do enjoy those smaller races because you really have like a lot more control about like everything that goes down in the race. So I get that. I'd be curious though, in that marathon or the other races that you two have done, do the two of you run it together the whole time? Is it a competition between the two of you?
No, there was one part at the end though where my legs are getting a little tired and Katie was like, I can't stop. And I was like, fine, just go. But with her. I was like, just go without me. But no, the whole time, like when she'd used the bathroom once, we stopped. A few times, like when I had to go a little slower, she slowed down for me. So we wanted to make sure on like every race that we've done so far, we've always finished together. But she will sometimes get a second faster than me. I'm like, what? We crossed at the same time.
That's funny. Yeah. I think running is such a individual sport very often, but I want to hear more of this from people like where it's like a team sport because it can be treated like that. And I'm sure maybe like a bathroom break might slow the time down if someone else doesn't have to go. But like truthfully, I'm sure more times than not, the fact that you two are running together, pushing each other through the race, you individually each run a faster time than you probably would have if you were running it by yourself.
Yes, I agree.
So. Definitely motivate each other.
Yeah, because if there's a few times where like, let's say like if I get tired or Katie gets tired, I just feel like that push that we give each other to keep up with each other's pace is really helpful.
And is there a next race yet? I think I saw a TikTok the other day, like you two were like, "Oh, anyone have any advice as far as like what to do when you don't have a race?"
Yes.
I don't know if you two figured one out yet.
Well, because this whole process is new for us. The taking the break
I don't
process.
like break. I like a
'Cause,
schedule.
Yeah, we're really good with like that was good with marathon training. Like you had a certain amount of time or a distance you had to go each day, but now there's like nothing, and you spend like the last 3 months, with the schedule. So that I feel like that has been really hard for us trying to just figure out what to do next and what to focus on. But in between races, we are looking at maybe doing a marathon in February. So we're looking at that, and then we would really like to do an ultra next fall, maybe in October. So
Okay.
hopefully we can do
Nice.
that. But yes, it's definitely challenging for us. It's something that we're learning is like, what do we do in between races? How do we keep our endurance, but also don't, overtrain or don't get that burnout. So yeah, that's something we're still learning.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're approaching it the right way, though. I think it's good, especially like after your first marathon, to take that time off and be in a little bit of a weird state. Because I'm sure the two of you are so used to, like, over at least like the last year, but probably like the last 3 years, just like constantly going after like the extra mile and like pushing the workout harder. Obviously, it sounds like there's been some setbacks, but at the same time, the two of you have persevered and fought through a lot of that quickly and really have just gotten after it. And to then reach that big goal of doing the marathon, running the longest distance you've ever done, and then to be like, well, now what's next? We don't
Yeah.
know. We don't know when it is, where it's going to be quite yet. It's a little strange because like you just had this huge accomplishment and now you're just like kind of confused with what's next. But that's part of it. And I think like being like strong through that time and just like running for fun and just passion and like keeping the training up as you can. And then you'll have that next race in February that I'm sure you'll have that great feeling come back again really soon.
Yes. Yeah, we've definitely tried to do like other activities too. Like Katie will go like rock climbing sometimes and I'll go hiking. So just trying to incorporate like other activities that maybe because marathon training was time consuming and you were exhausted. So, maybe some of those activities that we didn't do during that time, we're trying to do now. Time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd be curious because I think everyone has a different approach with this. And obviously you mentioned someone shared like a plan with you, but what did your training look like during your marathon training?
We ran 4 days a week.
Yes.
One really long run on the weekend, and then one medium run, I guess, and then 2
strength days, and then a rest day.
Yeah.
So we were running 4 days a week. And I feel like this plan really worked for us. Going forward, though, if we do ultras, it would be nice to, talk to more of like a trainer about tips and stuff about what to do and like schedule wise. But this schedule really worked great for us. We were able to modify it because we both work on different days. So she was able to do like her medium-ish run on a different day than mine. But yeah, I feel like that 4 days of running, 2 strength and 1 rest, that really worked out well for us.
Awesome. And what did like the weekly mileage look like, I guess, by the end of training at your peak? What was the longest mileage that both of you put in a week?
No. Oh my goodness. I'd have to look at the schedule. I know the longest run that we did was like 21 miles. I want to think it was like
35 maybe.
35 maybe. I can't remember. I need to get my phone.
It's okay.
But we can definitely, and that's on our TikTok page too, of like our weeks. We put exactly how many miles we did that week and like what each day consisted of.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of people, they think that to train for a marathon, you need to run 50, 60, 70, 80 miles.
Oh no, yeah, we weren't going that far. we were, I think the longest, it was in between 35 to 40, I think.
But that was only for like 2 to 3 weeks.
So we didn't go past that. We started out really slow. Like our first week, the longest run was like 6 miles. Then it like went up to like 8, 9. And then it just kept going up. And then, some weeks it would be less than the others. But yeah, no, we weren't going. I know I've seen those too, where people will do like 80 miles during the week. And I'm like, how do you have time to do 80 miles during the week? Especially with a full-time job and stuff. But yeah, it was only like, I think no more than 40 miles. I know that.
It's great to hear because I mean, for me, like I'm training for marathons. I do a little bit more than that. My weeks are like 50 to 60, which is a lot. But I think there's some people like in my close inner circles who hear about that and they're like, well, why would I train for a marathon? I'm not going to run 50, 60 miles a week. But here are people who are obviously doing 35 miles, both completed a marathon, both are hungry for another race after that. It's not like you jumped in the marathon and you were like absolutely distraught by the experience. You're motivated to do a longer race is a really great story to hear. I mean, on that topic though, of like in the race, that is, was there like any periods that the two of you felt like you hit a wall or you were like really struggling to get through it, or with the training you put in, were you feeling pretty good with it in the race?
I think at like what, mile 24, right? I think it was 24. Yeah. We just our legs just started getting tired, but we were never, I feel like with our training, it really prepared us because we were never like, oh, this is impossible. We can't do this.
Pretty good at the end of the race.
Yeah. And we felt, because I will remember like our first half marathon, I thought I was like, call an ambulance. I was like, something's wrong. It's like, maybe I need the paramedic. But you know, I feel like then when we did our first half, we really learned from that because we did not have really a plan. We were just kind of like running. But with this plan that we followed, and it's crazy because it's just crazy how everybody's different, because you'll see people, like you said, who are running a lot and who don't run that much. But I feel like you just have to find what works best for you. And I feel like you won't know until you do that first marathon, really. But I think we were really prepared. Our legs were just a little tired at mile 24, but we were good and we kept going our same pace.
That's great. And by the way, I'm curious, you don't have to share this if you don't want, but how old are the two of you? Because I think it's good to like give the listeners some perspective about two people who obviously have been training for 3 years, were able to do a marathon and training 35 miles a week. And really like, sounds like that race wasn't too difficult for you.
I'm 27.
I'm 26.
Okay. Cool. I mean, I had a feeling. I was like, they're probably like mid-20s, but I didn't want to like put a number on it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like regardless, like there's people out there who are younger and also like way older who can have that same experience as the both of you. So really, really cool story to hear. Now, on like a different note, I know we mentioned this at the beginning. You two live in Georgia. Where in Georgia specifically do you both reside?
Close to Atlanta.
Atlanta, very nice. And so, because I just like love hearing about different areas where people run and like those experiences. So like running near that Atlanta area, you know, I haven't heard too much about it. I haven't been to Atlanta since I was like 11, 12 years old. How is running in that part of the country? Where do you two typically run and train? I'd love to hear about that.
We don't really run like downtown Atlanta. Sometimes I will when I have a day off. I work 3/12, so I have one day that I can like kind of venture out and go find different parks in Atlanta. But we live kind of on the outskirts, so we find there's
a bunch of different trails, a bunch of different rivers that have paths, and also like in our neighborhoods too. We'll run sometimes in there, but we like to switch it up. We like to, that's something that makes it interesting too. And there's different parks, so yeah. But really, really a lot of the parks that we'll run in our neighborhood.
Yeah, our nature. We like just being out in the nature instead of on the busy sidewalks.
The trails are great. And that's the hard part about being in New York City sometimes is like, I'm always running on these like hard paths, lots of people, a lot going on, bikers everywhere, which is motivating, but like nothing like a great trail on like a nice, cool 50 to 60 degree day. Like I love that.
I've been to New York once, and it'd definitely be busy to run with the sidewalks and everything going on. It is beautiful.
Yeah, if you ever make it back, we could hit a run for sure, and
it'll be fun.
We'll do a race. We do have a lot of really good races here. What about in your area, in like the Georgia Atlanta area?
Yeah, in this area they have from 5Ks to marathons. The one that we're thinking about doing in February is actually in Atlanta.
Very cool. I think a good way to kind of transition this is, you know, go back to the TikTok a little bit as well. Because I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are interested in creating content about something they're really passionate about. And I love how both of you did that. I mean, that's, I think, a lot more of a trend right now. But I think I want to first start off with, do either of you, when you create your content, feel like a feeling of like, oh, like what are people going to think about me? Is this like a little weird? Because I think that's something that some people struggle with. And I think no one should feel that way, right? I think like if you talk about something and you're legitimate about it and honest, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like you're trying to help people and it's like a nice thing. But like, what advice would you have for like someone who's interested in creating who might be a little intimidated about doing it, as to people who've done it really well so far?
I feel like we kind of had this struggle to begin with, especially like since we're not going for time, our time might be not as fast as others. And I feel like that kind of was like, that was hard to get over to begin with, because it's like, oh, people are running 6-minute miles. Yeah. And we're like, well, we look like turtles over here. But just the fact that, we thought about like when we were starting, like, gosh, we were following these people who were running half marathons, and they were like such a big idol to us, and just how their journey was, and we never thought we could get to that point. So we were like, we didn't care how fast they were going, or we didn't care what they were doing. They just finished. Yeah. So we just put that into our mindset. Like, we didn't even think we could do this a year or 3 years ago. So we just were like, we're just going to do what works for us. And, you just have to of course, you'll have people over there that are like sending you messages like, how fast did you go? How fast did you go? How fast did you go? And then, and some of those, you just ignore those comments, because you'll always get somebody who, maybe has something to say that, is kind of harder to hear. But that's just the part of social media. I just feel like you have to just listen to the positives, because we have also, it's amazing the response that we have got, like having the really comments amazing. Of like, this is, y'all are doing amazing. Keep it up. Like, such an inspiration. It's like those comments that you just really have to listen to.
Yeah. That's what I say with the new TikTokers who are like scared to post content. Cause I was too, because I was like, it's not really my thing, social media. And so, especially with having like friends and family, like watch it and like, oh, what are they going to think? And, but it's actually been a huge support system. So like all my work friends, they'll be like, oh, I saw your TikTok. And like, they'll kind of go off of it and ask me questions. So that's actually kind of exciting. I just want to be afraid of doing it and just do it, because I mean, it's who you are and it shows what you love and it gets you excited. So that's what's important.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, I think like what's nice about it is regardless of if you're the best runner in the world or the worst, I think there's a place for you on the platform to do well and to encourage someone, because I think even like some of these Olympians, these pros, yeah, they might post a better time than the three of us, but they might not be able to be motivated to share it. They don't have that passion for helping people or creating. And so you can easily do much better than those people and make much more of a difference than those people by doing what you're doing. And I think like, regardless of the time, like you're doing something that 1% of people have ever done, complete a marathon. And what you're looking to do even further with some of these ultras, the percentage goes down that much more. So, and I think like it's good to normalize running for passion rather than running for time. Yeah. I'm someone right now that like I could speak to it. I'm trying to break a 3-hour marathon. Like that's a super big goal of mine.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But at the same time, like I'm not going to lie, it can be a little burning out, and it does take away a little bit of that passion, because you feel like it's almost a job rather than your passion. And I'm like, I can't wait to do it, because then I'm like, okay, now I can just go back to my roots and like have fun with it. And hey, maybe it won't happen, but like
you got it.
You do. Yeah, it's awesome.
I appreciate it. But I mean, I think my advice to you and advice to listeners too is like, it's okay to just like do it because you enjoy it. And like the time is, if you want to take it seriously, great. But like it's nice to just like have the connection with the sport because of the love for it. I'd be curious, are there like any big goals for the page? Are you looking to like potentially monetize it down the line if that opportunity were to possess itself? Or for you, is it just something that the two of you like to do and you're just doing it for the love of it?
We would just love to help, other runners and just keep doing that. We don't really have like a big goal for our page, just to keep sharing what we love. And
if it goes somewhere, that's great. But if not, we still love it.
Yeah.
Good answer. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's the right mindset to have with it. Are you two just on TikTok, or do you also have like that same presence on Instagram? And do you go on like other platforms for what you're doing, or is it just TikTok right now?
We have an Instagram account, but I feel like we kind of just share our TikTok videos. We want to grow our Instagram account too. But I feel like we were just focusing, especially during this marathon training, we were focused on just the TikTok. But now that we have some break, we were thinking about maybe kind of doing both more of the TikTok and the Instagram.
The Instagram is more of, because like to show different brands that we wear, use, and that was kind of like a content thing that we could tag them in and just show our support with them as well.
That's smart. Yeah. I think that with TikTok, I mean, that's probably the best place to start for YouTube from what I've been hearing and seeing. Just the fact that like it's so much more of an interest-based platform. I know like Instagram was like kind of going to that, but like TikTok, like that's the place to be if you want to like connect with your community. But I think having that presence on Instagram, like you two said, I think that's still important to have down the line. And it's good that you have a strategy with that. Anything you two want to say to like the listeners that you're passionate about, or that you just like, want people to know from your perspective, or final piece of advice?
I mean, just keep going.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, if you, feel like, you can't, if you can't, if you feel like it's just going to be a long process, just keep going and trust your body, don't compare yourself to others too. I feel like that was hard starting out. I would really compare myself to others, but everybody is different. Everybody has their own learning and training process. Do what works best for you. And it's a sport, that you're not just going to be good at overnight. It's a process.
It definitely takes time. With me, I would say for people that have weird, I guess, work hours, that you can still do it. That was my struggle, but I saw other TikTokers, Instagram people that also worked like 12-hour shifts or overnights and stuff, and they found time to do it. So that was kind of a big pusher that like you can still do it, even though it's not like an 8 to 5 job and you have like the afternoon to do what you can. So and you can see how determined they are. So just to, like she said, just stay determined and push through it and do what you love.
I really thoroughly enjoyed speaking to both of you today. It was so nice getting to know both of you, learn a little bit more about your running journey and the reason that you got started. I think the tips that was shared today was really helpful. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people, especially those newer runners who are hesitant on taking that first step, who have had trouble staying consistent with it, and who might want to see themselves accomplishing a race like a marathon down the line. So this is all really great and really helpful. So, if there's ever anything in the future I can do to help you two with your page, just let me know. I think, we're all this running community working together. So it means so much that the two of you came on the podcast today, but thank you so much. And, we'll stay connected here in the future.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun.